Hey everybody, welcome to DBS Films Podcast. My name is Kellen. With me as always is my brother Brendan. Together we make movies with DBS Films. Today's episode we are going into how to market your movie in 2022 part 2. This episode we're going to get a lot more tactical in what you can do to help your movie have the best and most successful launch that it possibly can. The first episode we basically talked about why you need to have an overall marketing mindset, how that's going to help out getting your distribution, and basically the importance that it plays, as well as the most important part, which is split testing your cover, your blurb, and also your trailer. So in this one we're really going to start basically talking about, all right, your movie's gone through distribution. How do you go ahead and promote it? How do you go ahead and push it? And then more importantly, and something that's missed out a lot, how do you continue to build a brand for not only your movie, but for your studio, because your studio is ideally going to make a lot more movies from this. So as always, be sure to take a look at us online. Our Discord is the place to be because we make movies for our fans, with our fans. If you ever wanted to be part of the movie making process or on set, that can be a very good way to do so. So hopping into this episode, really, I think the place I want to start is, all right, sweet. You got distribution, Brendan. Way to go. And guess what? You don't have to worry about marketing whatsoever because you have a distribution deal, right?
Yeah, it's completely false. It couldn't be any more false because even if they say they're going to market your film, you're going to have to pay for that. Most of these are baked in. When I go to the distribution table, we had a couple of people try and get $50,000 to $70,000 from us in marketing expenses. So that's money that they take off the top end. Before you even get a cent, you have to pay back that $70,000. And I'd wager that most movies that are going to go to these distribution companies are not going to even make $70,000. So it's kind of a way to put you in a huge hole right away. And you have to be very aware of that. You have to be very aware of these marketing fees. And, the companies are going to come in and say they're going to give you projections. Like we had projections that Girl in Cabin 13 was going to make $500,000 in its first year, internationally and domestic. And I was just like, what is this? Like, they're going to blow smoke up your ass. And if I was a new filmmaker who didn't understand the industry, I'd be like, yeah, man, like I've seen like Napoleon Dynamite was made for $1 million and it made like $100 million. Why can't my, movie that I filmed on, a shitty camera make $10 million or $500,000 seems like nothing. That's easy. We could easily make that stuff back. And the game has changed. Everything has changed. And if you're going to get yourself in a $50,000 to $100,000 hole right off the bat, for a company will take that money, they will take your $50,000 and they will just post on Instagram and they'll post on Facebook and they'll post on TikTok. And when I say these distribution companies, these are the shadier ones. Obviously, do your own due diligence on these distribution companies. There are very, very good distribution companies. There are about 15 to 20 of them that are very, very good and highly reputable. But there's a lot of them also that are going to try and scam new filmmakers because they come in there bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and they just don't understand like the market. They don't understand how to negotiate and they're going to get themselves in trouble. So always do your due diligence. Make sure you're working with a distribution company that is, has a good reputation. And if you're concerned about that, go on IMDb, get email addresses of other filmmakers, email them, because the people who got burned are going to be very, very helpful to make sure that other people do not get burned. So just keep that in mind. Distribution companies get a very bad rap. They get a bad rap because of the bad apples. For the most part, my experience with distribution companies, the honest ones, everything has been perfect. They've done what they've promised. I've had no issues at all. But if you go on like the Facebook groups, if you go on the chat forums, you'll see everyone's bitching and moaning, but they put themselves in that situation. They signed that deal. And what we're telling you right now is, number one, learn how to negotiate and learn how to spot these bad deals. If you're coming into a deal with a $50,000 to $100,000 marketing budget, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, it really is the case where what you're going to see is either one complete blatant over, drawn and cost to what marketing is. And then at best, in our experience, again, we have really good experiences, but we set the expectations right. you might get an Instagram post here or an Instagram post there, or maybe they'll say something or whatnot. But if you're not, as a filmmaker, ready to go ahead and push this to the next level, then I think it's really the case where you can't really expect anyone else to do it. You have to be the champion of this. So the other thing I want to mention before we kind of hop into detail on the tactics there is, this is just another thing we mentioned for the beginning of the first one. This is an area where I feel like filmmakers just don't want to put in the work. And I think one of the major reasons for it is because they don't think this is almost part of the process still. Like I'll hear all the time on just different stuff that we hear, like, oh man, I got to post again on, about this, or, I got to go ahead and promote the movie and things like that. And I just want people to understand right now, if you're listening to this, you're going to have a heavy plate of marketing activities that you can do. If you're not willing to do them and do them after every single part of the movie, you're going to find very limited success. And the reason for it, I think that's an issue, is people just completely underestimate how much work they have to put in here. So based on your experience with other indie filmmakers, would you agree that it almost feels like other indie filmmakers don't consider this as like an element there? They think it's above and beyond. And I think if you can at least frame it to understand that, okay, the movie's out, now I'm in marketing mode and I have to push it, you're at least going to be in for a better time than when you're like, well, nothing's happening. I guess now I got to scramble and try and get some views and nothing's happening. So now I'm demoralized and, well, there goes the movie.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's a, if I build it, they will come kind of philosophy, where if I make a good movie and I put it out there, then people are going to find it and it's going to blow up and it's going to become a hit. And, that might happen. It's super rare. I mean, I haven't seen it done in a long time. And most of the time it'd be like some found footage movies would be the ones that kind of blow up. But, if you're coming in with that mindset, just to make a very, very good indie movie is extremely, extremely difficult. And you'd have to make not only is it an indie movie, but you have to make something extremely, extremely, extremely good. And I think that, can you do that? Yes. But is it going to be very, very difficult? Yes. Is it almost like a lottery ticket? Yes. If you want to sit here and build your business, the foundation of your business, on lottery tickets, you're going to be in for a bad time, because you might make that breakthrough movie. You might make your Saw and you might explode, but that's not a solid foundation. The next movie, you got to hit another lottery ticket. So you got to hit 2 in a row. It's just not a good foundation to build a business. So, I think that, you really have to keep that in mind. And as far as the big thing that I see, filmmakers, the mistake that they're making is they're waiting for their movie to come out. And then they wait a week, the high of like releasing this, and they're like excited. They're showing their friends. They might do a couple of Facebook posts, and then the movie falls off or it's not getting traction. And now they're scrambling to create a marketing plan and get the marketing out there. It's a huge mistake. To give you an example, where we are in the Shapeshifter process, this movie is going to launch mid-January, and we've been marketing or getting marketing ready for the past 60 days. I've been doing split tests for the past 30 days. For the next 30 days, once I have the title, we're going to be building trailers. We're going to be building creative stuff. We're going to be building, taking stills. I'm going to be working with distribution companies to understand which platforms we're going to be on and the best way to market those platforms. We're going to start working and increasing our TikTok spend. So everything happens when that movie releases. I click a few buttons, and all that work that I've done the past 60 days, those like faucets get turned on, and all of a sudden we get all this traffic right away. Because once your movie comes on the platform, a lot of these platforms run on 30 to 60 day like new release lists. And after that 60 days, they fall right off and your visibility plummets. So you have a very limited amount of time to get as many views on your movie as possible. When Amazon puts that up and it's been up for a couple hours and we're having thousands of downloads right away, Amazon's like, hey, this must be a very popular movie. This movie must come with a back-end community. Let's take this movie and we'll show it to other people, because if it's getting this much traction already, they must be doing something right. As opposed to another movie that gets released, the guy's friends and family kind of reviews it. He puts a couple, Facebook posts up, and it gets like 10 to 15 people to check it out. Amazon's going to be like, hey, this movie, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people interested in it. Let's just put it down the bottom and give another movie a shot. This is how these things work. You have to be prepared. When that thing comes live, like when we're in the time frame of the distribution company saying, hey, we submitted this, it's passed, this can be up in the next, 72 hours. I'm literally every 30 minutes checking to see, when this thing's coming up. And then once it's up, I go on my computer, I turn on all the ads, I send Kel a text message saying, hey, let's alert the community and let's go. And that's how you have to do it. If you're not doing this, you're going to have a hard time, getting that algorithm to like you, getting the algorithm to like your film, and getting that free exposure. Because Amazon Tubi do give you free exposure through their placement and the algorithms and the also bots and everything like that. The problem is you have to kickstart this process. You got to light this fire, essentially. If you're not doing that, then they're not going to help you out. It's a win-win for them, but you got to really do your own work and be ready to do this right when that movie gets released.
100%. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because that segues right into my next thing, which is what is the importance of the release for the launch, and really highlighting what you kind of mentioned there. It's that algorithm, man. If you can get to the top of the algorithm, you will benefit from more views than any kind of or of paid advertising. You're talking millions of eyeballs. We were number one with Amazon Prime and new releases with The Haunting the Murder House, and that's kind of why you alluded in the first one. Hey, I'd love any movie that was performing like that. But I think, do you want to just kind of take a second to kind of re-clarify? The most important thing is to have a very powerful launch, because the more positive information you feed the algorithm, the more likely you're going to be to the top of the charts, which we achieved with The Girl in Cabin 13, which we achieved in The Haunting of the Murder House.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you want to talk about getting ROI, the first 72 hours are going to be the most crucial. The first 72 hours are going to be the most crucial, followed by the first 30 days. After that, your movie is going to fall off. But if you can get all the way up to the top, like we were up there as a top new release for horror, and I think we were overall like 15 or 20 in the overall store, you get stuck up there, you get a little sticky, and then you slowly fall down through the charts. And as you fall down, your revenue gets less and less, but you're still picking up that free exposure. We burn out our community first. Then we go through all the Facebook ads that we possibly can. Then we get some viral TikToks and TikTok audience stuff going. And then after that, we kind of rely on Amazon to just kind of, feed the bees, keep like bringing new eyeballs to the movie. And at times, Amazon will give you a lot of traffic. And when I say Amazon, it's also Tubi. They both run on the same sort of algorithmic learning, because this is how all internet shops operate. So they're pretty much interchangeable, Amazon Tubi is. So you have to capitalize on that stuff. Like, if you're not doing that right away, if immediately you're only getting a couple hundred people to look at your movie, to download your movie, Amazon's going to say, hey, something is wrong with this movie, let's penalize it. As opposed to us, where we're getting thousands of views right away, we're getting downloads, we're getting engagement, people are liking it. Amazon's gonna open up the floodgates and say, all right, like, people like this movie, this is a quality product, let's push it out a little bit more. So you really have to keep this in mind. And if you're not, like, almost 95% of our advertising budget is spent in the first 30 days. After that, we really kind of like taper it. And after that, I'm just talking distribution, saying, hey, we're making, and the advertising spend for that month will be 15 to 20% of gross. That's just what it is. And that goes all the way down until, like, we pretty much until we release another movie, and then I'll just move all that ad spend to the new one. But so yeah, almost all of our budget is going to be done in the first 30 days. And I think that's just the best way to do it. Unless someone tells me something else. We're going to just continue to push that algorithm and our, movies to the top ranking as quickly and as efficiently as we possibly can.
Completely agree with that. And honestly, like I said, I want this episode to be a lot more tactical with what we're doing. Let's just give everyone a full approach of what a DBS launch will look like, from having all the ads ready to go. You get the green light to turn it on, and then discuss, I think, another important thing, how important is it to see buys and reviews right away? Now, we've developed something completely special here that's very unique with our community and the size of it. We have almost 12,000 members in our Discord. We have a good 300 super fans who are all about DBS. So once we quickly get to that 100 number of reviews very, very fast because we have a very supportive community. So one, think about building this, but how important is it for you to utilize, get all of those friends, get all of those family, get any one of those fans that you possibly can. But let's say you get the green light from the distribution. Hey, we're up. We confirmed it's good to go. Walk me through kind of turning the ads on and then basically funneling all of the reviews. What I guess would be like a perfect 72-hour launch in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, we're always talking with distribution. I'm trying to figure out where this thing's going to launch. With the distribution that handled Girl and Cabin 13, we actually had a specific date that we are going to launch with, which helps out. But the one we did recently with the Murder House, it was just whatever platform could get it done first, essentially planted their flag. But there is communication on that end that I'm working with to just make sure we're on the same page. But I have these ads ready to go. They're already approved by Facebook. They're already approved by TikTok. And, I get the call from distribution. They say, hey, look, it's up. I get the link. I take that link and input it in the ads. I turn on all the ads. So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, whatever ads, YouTube ads, whatever ads I have, I turn them all on. I'll send Kel a text message saying, hey, let's alert the Discord. We put the link in the Discord and, those people are going to buy it. And we always like, hey, leave your unbiased review. Like, we want to know exactly what you like about this movie. Because one thing that kind of bothers me is when a whole bunch of movies get a whole bunch of 5 stars and you can just tell us from their friends and their family, like, it doesn't really help out. It just looks really fake. We're always saying to our communities, like, look, you guys love us. We love you guys. It's great, but give us your honest review. We always want honest reviews because it just makes it natural, and it's honest, natural. It's natural feedback. It's like honest feedback. So that's what we start, and we can accumulate all this stuff very quickly. And we do have the luxury of having a very good Discord that we've cultivated. But if you have email addresses, if you have anybody else that you've interacted with your movie before, this is where you let them know. And this is like one of the biggest things that we preach is building your own community. You don't need to have a Discord, but at least get email addresses of people that like your stuff, or social media contacts of people that like your stuff so you can release it. One thing I struggle with all the time is I follow maybe 10 to 15 indie directors that I really, really like. I think their stuff is really good. It's almost impossible for me to find out when they get a new release. I'm literally checking IMDb on a lot of these other people every single day to see when they're releasing these movies. It's very chaotic. And the fact that I'm having to do work to try and figure out when these movies are getting released is not what you want. When our movie releases, if you've ever engaged with any of our stuff, if you've ever seen a TikTok post of ours, if you ever engaged with on Facebook or any of these other things, you're going to see that this movie released, and you're going to see it right away. And so if you're like, hey, I know DBS movies, they're getting better. They're cool. Two cool guys. I'm going to give their stuff like a shout out or a take a look at it. That's what you want. You want the guys who are on a Friday night, they don't really know what to watch. They're scrolling through social media and they say, hey, look, The Shapeshifter's out. And they're like, oh, I know these guys from the Murder House. That was a pretty decent flick. Let me check it out. That is like the logical steps that I want our fans to go through. And we want that all to happen in 72 hours. So anybody who has ever engaged with us, it's kind of like a funnel. You want to start with the people, family, friends, Discord community, people who really like your stuff. Then you fall down to using Facebook and Instagram and TikTok to find the people who've engaged with your stuff in the past. And then below that is you can use Facebook and all these other platforms to find new fans and bring them in. And at that same time, it should be past the 72-hour mark. So you're using Amazon, Tubi to also cultivate and bring in new fans. That is how the funnel is supposed to work. That is the ideal launch for a 72 window that, that we get once our movie goes live on one of these platforms.
Yeah, and that's really so critical, and that really should be the bulk of your effort. You should have this ready to go, really be pushing, calling in all those favors. So the last thing I wanted to kind of talk about kind of ties into our ability, which, a very competitive edge that we have, which is our amazing community of loyal super fans. I know we have a ton of people watching this right now, so huge shout out to all of you, because you guys are literally what's going to be the big difference in us, scaling up so much faster, being able to create so many more movies. So we're always going to be by far incredibly appreciative of this. But I think what I wanted to talk about now is, a lot of times we see people who basically think that like the movie is like a one-off thing and then done, when really you should be building the brand. You should have, if you want to be a filmmaker making multiple movies, you should be building the brand. Whether that is your, studio, we push DBS Films, but there's nothing wrong with pushing you as a director. We see a lot of directors who do a really good job of basically promoting their own material and being part of the things we did. But I think nowadays you have to understand that it's no longer, oh, maybe it's optional to have like a social media presence. You really have to, because if you're not doing it, you're not going to basically succeed there. And I would say one of the big step ups that we did from this year, and I think we're seeing a lot of the success from it, was our focus in more on social media. I'm not the biggest social media guy. Like if you take a look at my personal like pages, it's basically like a sunset picture here and there and like very basic stuff. But because of our drive to succeed, we essentially were like, let's look at all these social media channels. We have a podcast now. We have a YouTube with this. We have, more importantly, the TikTok channels that we have been huge. I mean, when TikTok really is pushing our way, we're getting, 43 million views on our content over the course of 60 days. All of this is not paid, on top of we have more paid ones. So do you want to talk about how you have to have that out there? Because like you said, it's that top of the funnel where these are how people see you. And I mean, how many people have we watched where we'll either hear their podcast, we'll see them on social media, we'll see them on TikTok, which is what we love, and we immediately search through that stuff. So if you're not creating that web there, then you're really doing yourself a massive disservice. And you just have to nowadays be out there, because this is how people are seeing you. TikTok is content, YouTube is content. And why are you not utilizing those channels is something that, really dumbfounds me when looking at other indie filmmakers. Like, you might not like it, but you have to be consistent about it, and you have to keep doing it because it does work.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, if you're hesitant to spend money, if your funds are tight, then you really have to double down on like TikTok and double down on YouTube and the platforms that give you a lot of free visibility. Because, yes, we can skip some lines and get ahead of the pack as far as like giving these platforms our money to get new viewers, as opposed to, sending out YouTubes and getting viral TikToks. But we're still branching out and covering all these bases because your audience lives in different places. Each platform has its own sort of built-in demographics. TikTok is very young, but you can get viral very, very quickly and you can get a lot of exposure. YouTube is a little bit older. It's people searching for information. A lot of people find us from, trying to find information about filmmaking and looking for different ways to either start a film company, and they'll see our stuff. And they'll obviously, if I saw our podcast or saw us talking about things, you're immediately going to go take a look at our product, because they're going to be like, are these guys any good? Like, are they saying what they're actually, or like, are they actually doing what they're preaching? So that's a way we get people. The podcast people are very information heavy. A lot of people just consume information via podcast, and that's the same thing. I listen to so many filmmaking podcasts, and when I first hear the person that comes on and is talking about their film, I immediately take a look at their film, and then I go and purchase it. And I've probably spent upwards of hundreds of dollars on people's movies this year because I listen to them speak and I go see their movie. I want to see what they're all about. And that's just on podcasts. Like, these are small little filmmaking podcasts, and Facebook's a little bit older, but Facebook's really built in, has a lot of data on people who have engaged with Facebook over the last 15 years. So you can really dial in on people who like the specific genre of your movie. So if you have a movie that maybe caters to an older demographic, then Facebook's where you want to be. If you have, a documentary or something that caters to an information like YouTube, podcasts, or where you want to be, or if you have a movie that caters to a younger demographic, it's going to be TikTok. But you want to have all these working together. You don't want to leave any stone unturned, because you never know when you'll find that one fan, and you want to find that one fan, you want to cultivate that one fan, and you want to make them a fan for life. Because once you have a fan for life, you don't have to remarket them, and that saves you money, that saves you clicks. And then next time when your movie releases, you'll have that one extra person to push the algorithm just a little bit more.
It really is that case. Like, you have to be spread out there. And I think the last thing I really want to talk about is where I think a lot of our marketing successes came from, specifically over this past year. And now, again, we, at this point in time last year, we didn't have a TikTok, we didn't have a Twitter, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have any of those things. We're like, all right, let's go ahead and push towards it. We're at 300K when it comes to our TikTok. We're at almost 12K with our Discord. Twitter's at like almost 6K. So, again, it's a scaling, but I think the reason we've had a lot of success is we, have shifted to our motto being that we make movies for our fans, with our fans. And I think a lot of filmmakers understand this, because this is usually why you got into filmmaking. There's something special about this level of creativity when it comes to making a film. We talk about it all the time. A lot of people want to be in movies. A lot of people want to be an actor. They want to be a director. They don't necessarily understand how difficult the actual things are, and they kind of assume it's a lot easier from what we see. But that being said, as we've talked about before, there's not that many opportunities for it. So I think you will be very surprised with how much your material resonates. And I highly recommend someone go take a look at the DBS Films TikTok. And mainly what it is just me, while we're filming, just kind of getting a little bit of a just trying to get basically a little bit of a vertical behind the scenes of what's going on. And that's it. It's just the scene being acted out. I'm like literally right behind Brendan, and then that's it. And I mean, we had one, it's Chloe running into a glass door, and then Dylan surprising her as Red Mask Man. That thing combined, how many times we posted it, it's gotten at least like 40 million views. And again, this is material that people want to see. So my whole point here is, embrace that, lean into that. We're leaning so far into that we're really making this our mission statement in that sense, because you can really find people who are supportive of you. I mean, again, we're trying to be on a base level, but like our super fans, the Carl's Club fans, all of the fans that we have in our Discord, they're absolutely amazing. These are people who are so devoted to us, and we're just as devoted back to them. But making movies is something that the content will push itself. One thing that I do a lot of lives where I just directly talk to people. I think you should embrace that, because then you can directly talk with someone and you can get supporters. So can you kind of talk about the difference in 1 year that we have, and how you see and feel the difference of having very loyal fans and a very loyal community? So, again, we're a little bit different in how far we're pushing this. I don't think anyone needs to get to this high of a level, but whether you have 12,000 or whether you have 1 or whether you have 10 or 20, it adds up. And like we said, they can be the ones to lead the charge when you start these launch processes for your marketing.
Yeah. And I think that, if I were looking back on it, I would have been more aggressive in cultivating an audience, even when we were doing the first 8 movies. I think sort of the process in my mind when we were doing the first 8 was like, all right, let's get a product that people are going to like. The first 8 movies are very rough. They're very indie. There's a lot of mistakes, not only on a technical side, but on a story side. So I was like, I don't think a lot of people are going to like these things. I'm kind of making them as sort of tests to see, just get better, to get better working with actors, to get better with working people on set. But I'll tell you this right now, there's a lot of people who are interested in this process. No matter how bad your movie is, you can find people who are going to like it. And I really follow and watch only indie movies right now. And I've watched some that are absolutely way worse than the first 8 movies that we did, and they have a pretty loyal following. There's people who enjoy this stuff. There's people who search out indie films. So you have to be able to start to cultivate and grow your audience from the beginning. Even if you're not very good, still try and, put out the effort there, because there will be a time when you become very good. And that's when like your growth is going to explode, both making movies, but also in cultivating your community. I don't think the community would have been able to grow as quickly as possible until we got a very good movie, which was The Girl in Cabin 13. And even then, it's debatable whether or not that's a good movie, but it was technically good enough, and it had distribution, and it was on platforms that people could watch it. We got a lot of people that watched Tubi. They came to our TikTok, and then reverse. The people from TikTok went to Tubi. And yes, that probably wouldn't have happened unless we had a decent, technically sound movie. But we definitely could have grown a lot more, with the first 8 movies, cultivated that audience, had an even bigger audience. So then when we finally hit it with Girl in Cabin 13 and made a very good movie, we could have probably exploded our growth even more. So it doesn't matter where you're starting. I'd say document all your stuff, try and build a following, and just at least make your movie and get it up there. The one thing that kind of ticks me off is I follow all these filmmakers and they go through all this stuff and they do a really good job of documenting. They're doing like live video logs and they're going all the way through their journey, and then they just stop because their movie never gets released. Well, man, if I'm following you that long, you at least owe it to me to just put something up. Show me something. So don't do that to your guys. Like, at least follow through. If you want to give up on filmmaking, at least get your movie up on some kind of platform so I can watch it if I've been following you for like 2 years now.
I mean, that's a good point. I think you'll underestimate the audience there, because I know for sure I underestimated it. I mean, when I started doing the lives, and huge shout out to Aries and a lot of the very first people who basically hopped on my chat. We're talking, I have like 5 live, maybe 10 people live, and I'm like, hey guys, we make movies. Like, that's basically what I was doing for like a week. And you know what happened? I was consistent. And consistency is key. And this is where I want to end, because this is basically one of the biggest things. It's all about consistency. And unfortunately, you don't see the results as they start. You see them as they develop, like you said. But I spent basically 2 weeks going live every single day at the same time. And by the end of the 2 weeks, every time I would go live, I had 4, 5, maybe 6 people who would join me. And they would say, hey, Kellen. And I'm like, I'm Kellen. This is what we do. This is where we're at. And they showed interest in it. And I think you will see that people will understand that, wow, this is something that they're doing. But I think one of the reasons why people are so attracted to what we do, not only because we're making movies for our fans and whatnot, but basically what you said right there, which is, they want to be along for this process. They want to see it happen. I think one of the things with DBS that's so excited to, join us is you see our future potential. You see the growth. You see it happening in every single movie. They just watched. Now, if you joined our Discord when it first started, you got to see basically the launch of the Murder House. You saw the first cut of the Murder House. You saw the casting for Shapeshifter. You saw the first cut of Shapeshifter, which is now out. You went through the entire audition process for Into the Forest. You saw basically the information there, and now you're in the roles for Into the Forest. So to me, it's something where the more consistent you are as a filmmaker, the easier it is to find an audience as well too. So you want to kind of talk about how, if you're doing both of these consistently, they build on each other. The better the movies get, because you have more of a marketing and support from your community, which means the bigger your community gets because you've had more movies. More people know about DBS than ever before, and it's mainly because we consistently do the same right things over and over again. And that really is the true marketing.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to why you have to, make a lot of movies. In this industry is very, very difficult, where you have most people will make a movie every, 3 to 5 years. Well, it's really hard to cultivate an audience if you're only releasing a product every 3 to 5 years, because unlike books or video games, you can consume movies very, very quickly. So you can build up all this suspense, all this drama, all this excitement, and someone could watch your movie in an hour and a half on a Friday, and they're like, oh man, that was a really good movie. I can't wait for him to make another movie. And it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to make another movie. So you really have to figure out a way to make 2 to 4 movies a year. And I know it sounds difficult, but if I'm, working 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours on another job, and we're still doing this, like we both still have full-time jobs, and we're doing this as a side project, and we're making 3 to 4 movies a year, anybody can do this. You just have to be smart with what you're doing. You have to be smart with your time. But I mean, you got to at least do one a year. I think you have to make one movie a year for an indie filmmaker, and you want to cultivate this audience, because I guarantee you, if we had just made Girl in Cabin 13 and Murder House didn't come out for 2 to 3 more years, I don't think we would have had an active community. I don't think we would have had an active following. I don't think we would have had engaged people. Would the people have come back in 3 years to watch a movie? Yeah, probably, but they're not going to be as excited. They're not going to be as hyped as they are now. And now our community is going to get the Shapeshifter. They're going to get, or they just had the Murder House. They're going to get the Shapeshifter, and they're going to get Into the Forest. They're going to get the Roger Project, and we're going to start off with a new project immediately. So you're looking at probably this time next year, we will have probably 7 or 8, maybe even 9 movies that are 2.0 movies. As far as like the Girl in Cabin 13 was the first time we like hit technically sound movies. They could have 8 to 9 technically sound movies that they could watch that are enjoyable. And that's all within a 2-year time frame. And that's more than I think a lot of people can do, but you got to get the mindset of, even if you're not making a movie, or if you can only make one movie a year, you have to find other ways to do it, as far as like either podcasts or videos, like Kel was saying, YouTube lives, but even making shorts, showing the process. You have to find a way to keep these people engaged. The best thing you can do is to make 2-3 movies a year. If you can't do that, you're gonna have to find other ways to make sure your community is engaged and you're adding value to your community.
It's exactly that. So that's going to go ahead. And again, we love helping out any indie filmmaker out there. So if you have any questions in specific details, please join our Discord, shoot me a message. We're super happy to answer these, but hopefully you guys found that just helpful when it comes to the mindset and the ways that you can go ahead and help promote your indie film. It's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. As mentioned, Discord is the place to be. You can go ahead, check it out, be part of our movies, be in our project, see exactly what we're talking about. Check out our TikTok, check out everything that we're doing, and just copy us, guys. It'll help. It'll work. Trust me. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But until then, have a good one.